Hello again, this is Jedi Ryan. It's been a couple days since we finished our Threadripper update. I streamed once with it and I had one crash. The computer didn't crash, just I think it was maybe the video card. So what we're going to do today is we're going to stress test both the GPU and the CPU. We're going to run Cinebench and Heaven and see what our scores are. I think I have the scores from the previous setup, so I'll compare those. Yeah, we're going to show you guys. I think it worked out really well, changing the block and the liquid, because I used to idle at about 32C. Now I idle at about 28C. It goes as low as 26C when I first boot up. Under load, I think it didn't go higher than 45C under load, and it used to go all the way up to 62C under load when it was like really going hard on encoding. So we're gonna do some tests and see what we get. So these are the programs we're gonna be using to monitor everything. From left to right, we've got MSI Afterburner, GPU-Z, CPU-Z, and Hardware Monitor. This is our GPU-Z. Here is CPU-Z, 1950x Threadripper, 1.4 volts, 1.37. I have it set to 1.4, but you know, it has a little ceiling, and then 3.9, 3.8 on the cores. It's pretty much 3.9, off by like 0.003 at times. And then this is Hardware Monitor, and as you can see, we're idling at 28C right now on the CPU. Right here, 28C on the CPU, max of 43, so pretty much lines up with what I said. We haven't done any tests yet. We haven't run any benchmarks, so we'll see if that max changes. Right now it's 43C max. And the reason we're capturing this through the camera and not using OBS is we don't want OBS to take away from the score of the Cinebench or the Heaven benchmark, so I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Just to reiterate about CPU-Z, I have the core voltage set to 1.4 volts and the socket voltage set to 1.2 volts. Multiplier is 3.9, or no, I'm sorry, the multiplier is 39.0 times 100 is where you get the 3.9 gigahertz, as you can see all down here. I think I said that right. Forgive me if I didn't, but I'm learning. Typically, I keep my fans at 50% when I'm just editing and doing normal tasks. 25% when it's idle and I'm not using the computer and I'm out of the room but it's still on, and 75% when we're encoding and rendering. So during the benchmarks, I'm going to put the fans up to 75%. We'll see what happens. So first one we're going to do is Heaven. We're going to set the fans up first. Okay, the fans are now at 75%. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I personally don't mind fan noise. I wear headphones anyway. My microphone doesn't really pick it up, so 75% is the highest I go with my fans. And these are all case fans that I'm talking about. The two in the front, the one in the rear, and the 3 radiator fans. Okay, we're going to start Heaven. These are our Heaven settings. We're going with DirectX 11 Ultra Extreme Tessellation, 8x anti-aliasing. Currently getting between 80 and 200 FPS depending on the scene. Obviously 200 is not, you know, mostly 90 FPS. There you go, that's more realistic. It's a 1080. It's running at 2075 megahertz. Memory's at 5405. Temperature's at 70C. That's pretty good for air. Yeah, but we're gonna benchmark it and see what the average is. And okay, we're back, and after watching a quick Jay's 2 cents video, I go to him for most of my overclocking and computer stuff, him and Linus. If anybody's interested, because this is a 1080, this is the video here. MSI 1080 Gaming X 8G Performance and Overclocking Review. I've seen this video before and I just forgot. For some reason I went to Guru instead. I just Googled it real quick, but by me putting this voltage to 75, I was actually limiting the card on the voltage it can get. So that needs to go to 100. Jay had this at 50 and this at 250, and that was the furthest he could push it to get it stable. Whoops, got to change one of those at a time. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to see that should be much better and work much better than last time. So press that check mark. Okay, gonna run the benchmark.
A few moments later.
All right, There are our benchmark scores. Score of 2,736, an average FPS of 108. Now I'm very happy with that. I don't need to push the card any further. The fact that it's stable and we have no problems, that's plenty good for me. The card was running at, as you can see, I'll just show you one more time real quick. MSI Afterburner says differently than what Heaven says for some reason. I don't understand why. That's what MSI Afterburner is saying. 1999 on the core clock, 5,258 on the memory, and 78C. In Heaven, it's showing 2,025 on the core clock and 5,255 on the memory, and 78C on the temperature. So we know the temperature's right. The memory is within 3 megahertz, and the core clock is within 26 megahertz. So it's stable. I'm happy. Alright, we're here with Cinebench R20 now, and we're going to run this to test the CPU, see how we're doing. If you look here, this score here, 6670, this is my Threadripper before we overclocked it, and this here is my Threadripper overclocked with the previous liquid and water block at 7,035. See if what we did made any difference. Here we go.
A few moments later.
Okay, finished in about 2 minutes. And as you can see here, score is a little bit better, 7,064 to 7,035. The computer was already stable. We didn't change anything, the voltages or anything. To get the computer stable, I had to put the CPU voltage to 1.4 up from 1.35. And the CPU socket voltage to 1.2, and when we added 64 gigs of RAM, we had to lower the memory speed from 3200 to 2933. That's what gives us this score of 7,000. So I'm very happy with it. It's stable. Got up to 57 degrees right here, but that's definitely down from the 62 that it was before. So we saved, you know, 4 to 5 degrees by installing the new block and the new liquid. So I think it was definitely worth it. One last thing, we're gonna run Cinebench R15 Extreme. This is a modded version of Cinebench R15 for HEDT platforms like my Threadripper. Now this has a completely different set of scores. Numbers are different. I don't think we ever tried this on stock. I found out about this after. Our score to beat is 882. We're gonna run it, see what happens. We're running the CPU test.
A few moments later.
Okay, so the score we ended with is 843. A little disappointing to be honest, but it is what it is. I can't push my CPU any further than 3.9 gigahertz. Very similar numbers. 57 was the max on the CPU temperature, 28 was the minimum. The core voltage goes up to 1.417. I would like to bring it down to increase the longevity of the CPU, but I will have to play with that at another time. So that's where we're at right now. Okay, final thoughts for the Threadripper update video. I'm very happy. We seem to gain 5 degrees Celsius, 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, lower max and lower minimum, which is great. I think the new block and the fresh liquid really helped. The thermal paste is more or less the same technique that we used last time. I don't think that made much of a difference. We saw great scores, very comparable to what we had. It's a 1080 versus a 1080 Ti, so it's comparable. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. It averages about 32C, which is really good, and she's stable. Everything's stable. She's working great. This velocity block is totally worth it. The DRGB syncs with the motherboard and the RAM. It's beautiful. I'm absolutely extremely happy with the way this turned out. So hope you guys enjoyed this little Threadripper update video, and we're going to do the Maximus Formula build next, which will be the gaming computer, and this will be the streaming computer. So stay tuned for that. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace out. Okay, so final thoughts on the Threadripper upgrade.